At 32 weeks pregnant with twins, Hannah Rivera expected a hand to hold. Instead, her phone lit up with 11 words that shattered her world getting married in Cabo. "You're on your own." Minutes later, she staggered into St. Mary's Hospital, blood pooling beneath her designer maternity dress. Her body racked with contractions that came too fast, too brutal. Alone, abandoned, betrayed, the only headline that mattered now was survival. But fate wasn't finished with Hannah, because in the next 17 minutes, a stranger's choice would rewrite her story forever. "Please," she gasped, her voice breaking as she gripped the counter knuckles white with pain. "The babies, they're coming now." The intake nurse's eyes widened as she saw the blood beginning to pool beneath Hannah's designer maternity dress. This wasn't early labor. This was an emergency. 3 hours earlier, Hannah had called Victor Stone from their River Oaks mansion, literally begging him to come back from his business trip. The contractions had started like lightning strikes, nothing like the practice ones she'd felt before. Each one felt like her body was being torn in half. His response, those 11 words that would destroy everything. "Getting married in Cabo. You're on your own. Divorce papers coming. Could you forgive this? Drop a comment below and let me know." The admission nurse wheeled Hannah toward the maternity ward at breakneck speed, shouting for backup. "Is anyone coming for you, sweetheart?" "The father family, anyone." Hannah's silence was her answer, her mother dead. For years, no siblings, no real friends left after Victor had systematically cut them all out of her life, and now no husband. But it was worse than just abandonment. As the medical team rushed her toward the operating room, Hannah's phone buzzed with alerts from her bank. Insufficient funds account, closed transaction denied. Victor hadn't just left her. He'd emptied every account, canceled her insurance, even removed her name from the house deed. All while she was carrying his children. "Blood pressure's crashing," someone shouted. "These twins are in distress." Dr. Julia Grace rushed in, took one look at the monitors, and made the call. "Emergency C-section. Now these babies won't survive if we wait." As they prepared to cut her open alone and terrified, Hannah had no idea that in exactly 17 minutes, a billionaire stranger walking down that very hallway would hear her screams and make a decision that would change absolutely everything. Because sometimes when one man walks away from his family, another man steps up to claim them as his own. 6 months earlier, Hannah Rivera had everything. Her interior design firm, Lux Interiors, had just landed a 7-figure contract redesigning Houston's most exclusive country club. She drove a white Mercedes G-Wagon, lived in a 9,000 square foot mansion in River Oaks, and had married Victor Stone, the tech industry's golden boy, who'd sold his first startup at 28 for $40 million. Their love story had been magazine-worthy. They'd met at a charity gala where Hannah was showcasing her designs. Victor had pursued her relentlessly. Private jets to Paris, surprise helicopter rides over the city, a proposal at the Amalfi Coast, with a ring worth more than most people's houses. Every woman in Houston wanted her life. The pregnancy test changed everything in exactly 90 seconds. Hannah had stared at those 2 pink lines in their marble bathroom, her hands shaking with unexpected joy. At 32, after building her career empire, she hadn't planned on children yet. But this surprise felt like destiny, like the universe saying, "Now's your time." She'd actually laughed out loud, imagining Victor's face when she told him. The 8-week ultrasound revealed twins, 2 perfect little heartbeats flickering on the screen. Hannah had immediately started crying. Happy tears, overwhelmed tears, grateful tears. She'd planned the perfect reveal. Victor's favorite restaurant, champagne for him, sparkling cider for her, the ultrasound photos in a gift box that said Daddy X. But Victor's reaction shattered her fairy tale in seconds. His face went from confused to furious as he stared at the ultrasound images. "This wasn't the plan, Hannah. You know I'm about to close the TechSun deal. I need focus, not distractions." Distractions. She'd felt her heart physically break. "Victor, these are our children." "Your children," he corrected coldly. "You're the one who forgot to take your pills." She hadn't forgotten anything. They'd been trying for 3 months. But suddenly Victor was rewriting history, making her the villain in his narrative. The emotional abandonment started immediately. Late nights at the office became overnight trips. Weekend golf games stretched into entire weekends away. When she'd tried showing him the 20-week anatomy scan, 2 perfect baby girls, he'd barely glanced up from his laptop before saying, "Handle whatever needs handling. I'm busy building an empire." But the financial abuse that was calculated warfare. First, he'd changed the passwords on their joint accounts for security reasons. Then her credit cards started getting declined. He'd lowered her limits to almost nothing. When she'd confronted him at his office, he'd laughed. Actually, laughed. "You wanted this pregnancy, Hannah. You figure out how to pay for it. My money is for my investments, not your choices." She'd been 7 months pregnant when she discovered the truth about his business trips. His assistant, barely 23, fresh out of college, had accidentally sent an email to the wrong address. Hotel reservations in Cabo, the honeymoon suite, charges for couples, massages, romantic dinners, matching jewelry. Hannah had confronted him that night, and he hadn't even denied it. "Scarlet Black understands my vision. She doesn't burden me with complications." "Complications, I'm your wife. These are your daughters." "Not for long," he'd said, walking out with his suitcase. "My lawyer will handle the rest." That was 72 hours ago. Now, as the surgical team prepared to cut her open alone and abandoned Hannah, realized the full scope of his betrayal. He'd been planning this for months. Moving assets, hiding money, preparing to leave her with nothing while she was most vulnerable. But wait until you hear what happens in that delivery room. The operating room erupted into controlled chaos. Hannah's blood pressure had hit stroke levels 167/110. The twins' heart rates were dropping with each contraction. Preeclampsia had turned into Hell-P syndrome, her liver beginning to fail, platelets crashing. "We're losing them," Dr. Julia Grace barked. "Get her under now. These babies have minutes, not hours." As the anesthesiologist placed the mask over Hannah's face, her phone lit up one final time on the nurse's station. The message was visible to everyone. Divorce papers filed. House is mine. Premarital asset. You have 30 days to vacate. Already married Scarlett here in Mexico. Don't contact me again. P.S. Changed my number. The nurse holding Hannah's phone actually gasped. He sent this while she's dying. Hannah heard it through the fading consciousness. Tears streaming down her face as the anesthesia pulled her under. Completely alone. No one to call if she didn't make it. No one to hold her babies if she died on this table. But she wasn't as alone as she thought. One floor above, 40-year-old Sebastian Cole stood at his sister Tessa Hamilton's office window, staring down at the ambulance bay. He'd built a $13 billion empire from nothing, owned 17 companies across 3 continents, and had just been named Forbes' Philanthropist of the Year. Yet tonight, he was just a brother visiting his sister during her night shift as a neonatal specialist. Another emergency coming in, Tessa said, her pager going off. 32-week twins, mother in critical condition. Hell-P syndrome. Sebastian knew that term. His mother had nearly died from it when pregnant with Tessa 35 years ago. Is the father here? Tessa checked her phone, her expression darkening. Apparently, he just sent divorce papers while she's in labor. He's in Mexico marrying his secretary. Sebastian's entire body went rigid. The coffee cup in his hand cracked under his grip. Show me, he said, his voice deadly quiet. They walked to the observation window. Through the glass, Sebastian saw Hannah alone and terrified, being prepped for emergency surgery. No family, no friends, no one holding her hand as she faced death. The scene hit him like a physical blow. Suddenly he was 5 years old again, watching his pregnant mother collapse in their kitchen, blood everywhere, no one to help, because his father had abandoned them for his younger mistress. His mother had nearly bled out on their floor while he tried to call 911 with shaking kindergarten hands. She'd survived barely, but she'd never been the same. The medical bills had destroyed them. They'd lost everything while his father lived in a penthouse with his new family, protected by expensive lawyers and hidden assets. Sebastian had spent 35 years turning that pain into purpose. His foundation had helped thousands of abandoned mothers, but he'd never been there at the actual moment of abandonment, never been able to intervene when it mattered most. Until now, I'm going in, he said. Tessa grabbed his arm. You can't just watch me. Hit subscribe if you believe in karma, because Sebastian Cole was about to prove that sometimes karma wears a $10,000 suit and shows up exactly when needed. The surgery lasted 43 minutes. That felt like 43 hours. Baby A came first. 3 found sound to 2 Oz screaming. The sound of that tiny cry filled the OR with relief. They'd name her Lily Moore later, but right now she was just alive, pink and fighting. Baby B wasn't as lucky. 2 some lob 114. It's blue-tinged and silent. The resuscitation team descended immediately, working with practiced precision while the surgeons fought to stop Hannah's hemorrhaging. Sebastian Cole watched everything from the observation deck, his phone already in motion. First, call his personal lawyer. I need you here now. St. Mary's Hospital. Bring the family law team. Second, call his accountant. Liquidate whatever you need. I want a blank check ready. Third, call Houston's premier postpartum doula service. Your best team starting immediately. Triple your usual rate. Tessa grabbed his shoulder. What are you doing? What someone should have done for our mother, he replied, never taking his eyes off Hannah's still form. The smaller twin finally cried weak, but their both babies were rushed to the NICU while the surgeons worked to save their mother. Sebastian followed, making his decision with each step. He would stay. Hannah woke to rhythmic beeping and pain medication fog. The first thing she saw wasn't a nurse or an empty chair where Victor should have been. It was a stranger, an impossibly well-dressed man with gray eyes that held something she couldn't quite identify. Your daughters are beautiful, he said softly, as if they'd known each other forever. 2 Oz and 2 Lee 14 Oz. They're in the NICU, but they're fighters breathing on their own now. Hannah blinked, trying to process. The drugs made everything feel surreal. Who are you? Someone who understands what it's like to be abandoned, Sebastian replied simply. And someone who believes no woman should go through what you're going through alone. I don't, Victor. Where's in Mexico? Sebastian said gently with his new wife. But that's not important right now. What's important is that your daughters need you strong and you need support. I've arranged for help. Over the next 72 hours, Sebastian's presence became a constant that Hannah couldn't quite understand, but desperately needed. He never overstepped, never presumed, but he was there. Every single moment that mattered, when she could barely hold the breast pump at 300 a.m., exhausted and sobbing, he held it steady without a word. When the NICU chairs destroyed her C-section incision site, he had orthopedic cushions delivered within an hour. When hospital food made her nauseous, he brought homemade soup from his personal chef. Nothing fancy, just chicken and rice, exactly what she could stomach. He learned the nurses' names, memorized both babies' feeding schedules, and somehow materialized with her favorite coffee every morning at 6:30 sharp. Why Hannah finally asked on day 4, watching him cradle Lily while she fed the smaller twin, now named Olivia Harper. The baby was so tiny in her arms, barely the weight of a bag of flower skin, still translucent enough to see veins underneath. Sebastian's voice carried decades of buried pain. My mother was 22, 7 months pregnant with my sister. My father left her for his secretary, drained their accounts, disappeared. She nearly died delivering Tessa alone. I was 5, watching her bleed on our kitchen floor, trying to call for help. He adjusted Lily gently, the 3-pound baby looking even tinier in his large hands. I swore if I ever had the power to prevent another woman from suffering that way, I would. Hannah studied him. Really studied him. She Googled him, of course. Sebastian Cole, tech, billionaire philanthropist, notably single, despite being Houston's most eligible bachelor. His foundation had donated hundreds of millions to support single mothers. "I don't need charity," she whispered, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. Victor had left her with nothing. "It's not charity," Sebastian responded, his eyes meeting hers over the tiny babies between them. "It's justice." And maybe he paused, weighing his words. Maybe it's something more. The NICU monitors beeped steadily. Oxygen saturation, heart rates, breathing patterns. A mechanical symphony that had become the soundtrack to something unexpected growing between them. Day 5 changed everything. The Houston Chronicle's morning headline detonated like a bomb. Tech executive abandons wife during high-risk twin birth, marries secretary in Mexico. Someone had leaked the story complete with screenshots of Victor's cruel texts, his Cabo wedding photos posted while Hannah was in surgery, and hospital security footage of her arriving alone hemorrhaging. By noon, Victor's investors were pulling out. His company's board called an emergency meeting. His social media erupted with thousands of comments calling him a monster. Poor Victor. The coward was trending nationally. He stormed into the NICU at 4:00 p.m., designer suit wrinkled from his rushed flight back, face twisted with rage. Scarlet black, his new 23-year-old wife trailed behind, looking uncomfortable in her too tight dress and fresh wedding ring. "What the hell have you done?" he snarled at Hannah, who was skin to skin with Olivia, the tiny baby's monitors still attached to her translucent chest. Before Hannah could respond, Sebastian stepped between them. 6'3" of controlled fury in a $10,000 suit. Mr. Stone Sebastian's voice was dangerously calm. "You were in Cabo drinking champagne while your daughters were dying, while their mother almost bled out on an operating table. And now you're concerned about your reputation." Victor's face went red. "Who the hell are you?" "This is none of your business." "I'm the man who was here," Sebastian replied simply, holding her hand during emergency surgery, watching her fight for her life. "Sitting vigil while your daughters learned to breathe. Those are my children. Children you called distractions." Hannah's voice cut through stronger than she'd felt in months. She held Olivia tighter, the baby's 2-pound body fitting in one palm. Children you refused to pay for. Children whose mother you left with no insurance, no money, no home. Victor stepped forward aggressively. "You can't keep me from them. I have rights." "Rights," a woman's voice interrupted. Victor turned to find a wall of suits. Sebastian's legal team had arrived. The lead attorney, a shark in Louis Vuitton, smiled without warmth. Mr. Stone, we have 63 text messages where you explicitly reject these children bank records, showing you drained joint accounts while your wife was hospitalized. Insurance documents proving you canceled her coverage during a high-risk pregnancy. She pulled out an iPad, swiping through evidence. Oh, and this is interesting. You transferred 3 properties to offshore accounts last month. The forensic accountants found all 12 of your hidden accounts in the Caymans. That's fraud. Mr. Stone. Federal fraud. Scarlett gasped, stepping back. You said you were divorced. She said she was crazy. The divorce papers were filed during her labor. The attorney continued. While she was coding on the operating table, a judge will find that particularly cruel. Sebastian pulled out his phone, showing Victor the screen. Your board just voted. You're out as CEO, effective immediately. Your investors are suing for misrepresentation of character. And the district attorney, she's very interested in those offshore accounts. Victor lunged forward, but hospital security, who'd been standing nearby since Sebastian had requested them, immediately intervened. You think you've won? Victor spat at Hannah. You think this guy gives a damn about you? He's using you for publicity. When the cameras stop rolling, he'll disappear too. Hannah stood slowly, passing Olivia to the NICU nurse. For the first time in months, she felt powerful. The difference between you and him, she said quietly, is that he showed up when it mattered. When there were no cameras, when there was nothing to gain, he showed up. Security escorted Victor out, his new wife already on her phone with divorce lawyers, but Victor made one final cruel attempt that would backfire spectacularly. 3 weeks passed in a blur of tiny victories that felt like Olympic gold medals. Lily hit 4 totems on a Tuesday morning, and Sebastian actually cheered loud enough to wake babies 3 pods over. Olivia finally latched for breastfeeding on day 18. Oscillatory. Hannah sobbed with relief while Sebastian held tissues and whispered, "You're doing amazing." Every morning he arrived at 6:30 sharp with her coffee and something else. Fresh flowers, fuzzy socks for the freezing NICU, a phone charger when hers broke. Noise-canceling headphones for the constant monitor alarms. He learned both girls' cues. Lily hated being swaddled too tight. Olivia needed her pacifier at exactly the right angle. He sang to them during blood draws, off-key renditions of Beatles songs that somehow calmed their cries. He celebrated every ounce gained like stock market victories, keeping detailed charts of their progress. When Olivia had a bradycardia episode at 2:00 a.m., he was there before Hannah even called, having somehow sensed she needed him. You don't sleep anymore, do you? Hannah asked one night, finding him reading medical journals about premature infant development. Sleep is overrated, he replied. But she saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the same exhaustion she carried. They were both running on love and determination. The thing was, Sebastian never pushed, never suggested more than friendship, never made her feel like she owed him anything. But something was shifting between them with each passing day. In the way their hands would brush when passing bottles, how they developed a wordless communication over the babies' heads, the way her heart rate spiked when he walked in each morning. On day 21, as they sat watching both girls breathing without oxygen support, for the first time, Sebastian spoke quietly. I need to tell you something. Hannah tensed, waiting for the catch, the moment he'd reveal his real agenda. I'm falling in love with them, he said simply. Eyes on the twins, Lily's determination, Olivia's sweet nature, and he turned to look at her directly. I'm falling in love with their mother, the woman who almost died bringing them into this world, and still finds strength to fight for them every single day. Hannah's breath caught. Sebastian, I'm not looking for... I know, he interrupted gently. You're not looking for a replacement father, or a rebound, or a white knight. But what if I want it to be more? What if I want you to be everything? Do you think Sebastian is doing this out of guilt, love, or something else? Comment your theory, and don't forget to like this video. The custody hearing arrived 2 weeks after the twins came home, both finally hitting 5 talums and thriving. The courthouse was packed with media. Victor's downfall, having become Houston's scandal of the year. Judge Anna Parker reviewed the evidence with barely concealed disgust. The abandoned labor, the emptied accounts, the Cabo wedding during emergency surgery, each detail worse than the last. Mr. Stone, the judge's voice could have frozen hell. You abandoned your pregnant wife during a medical emergency that nearly killed her and your daughters. You left her destitute, uninsured, and alone. You showed zero interest in these children until your public humiliation made it advantageous to pretend otherwise. Victor's lawyer tried arguing stress, claiming the pregnancy was unwanted, that everyone deserves second chances. Second chances are for people who tried the first time. Judge Anna Parker cut him off. Mr. Stone didn't try. He fled to Mexico to marry his mistress while his children fought for their levels. The ruling was swift and brutal. Full custody to Hannah. Supervised visitation for Victor if requested. Child support set at 40% of his verified income, including the hidden offshore assets. And then the final blow, the option for voluntary termination of parental rights, which would release him from support in exchange for complete legal severance. In the parking lot afterward, Victor made his last stand. You destroyed me for revenge, he hissed at Hannah. My company's gone. Investors pulled out. Scarlett left me. You happy now? Sebastian stepped forward, Lily sleeping against his chest in a carrier, while Hannah held Olivia. She didn't destroy you, Victor. You destroyed yourself the moment you chose Cabo over delivery room. Victor signed away his rights that afternoon. The Cole estate garden sparkled with thousands of fairy lights strung between oak trees, casting magical shadows across the lawn. Lily and Olivia's first birthday party was intentionally small. Just the NICU nurses who'd become family, Dr. Julia Grace Tessa and her family, and the few true friends who'd emerged from the wreckage of Hannah's old life. 1 year, 12 months since that nightmare in the delivery room became a fairy tale she still couldn't quite believe. Dada Dada, Lily squealed, reaching chubby arms toward Sebastian as he approached with her smash cake pink frosting with edible glitter. Because his girls deserved magic. That word she'd said at first a month ago, and Sebastian had literally cried. Not gentle tears, but full-body sobs while holding this tiny human who'd chosen him as her father. Olivia, quieter but equally attached, clutched Hannah's hair while staring at the cake with huge eyes. She'd said Mama first, but Dada had followed within hours, as if she couldn't let her sister claim him alone. Can you believe they're one? Hannah asked Dr. Julia Grace, who was documenting everything with her phone. Can you believe you're married? The doctor replied with a knowing smile, gesturing to the elegant diamond band that had joined Hannah's engagement ring 2 weeks ago. The wedding had been perfect in its simplicity, just them, the twins, Tessa as witness, and a judge at the courthouse. No fanfare, no media, no elaborate production, just promises made while holding their daughters. Sebastian sliding the ring onto her finger, while Lily tried to eat his boutonniere. But the real moment, the one that mattered most, had happened the week before the adoption finalization. Sebastian legally becoming what he'd already been for months. Daddy. The judge had actually gotten emotional watching this billionaire who could have anyone choosing a woman with baggage and 2 babies who weren't biologically his. You know, Tessa said, joining them with champagne, I've never seen my brother this happy. Not when he made his first billion. Not when he got the Forbes cover. This, she gestured to Sebastian, now on the ground, both twins climbing over him, frosting everywhere. This is his happiness. Hannah's hand drifted to her stomach, where baby number 3 was just starting to make their presence known. 8 weeks along a complete surprise, but Sebastian's reaction had been pure joy. Another one to love, he'd said, simply already planning nursery expansions. The twins were walking now, toddling really. Lily always 5 steps ahead. Olivia cautious but determined. They'd gone from 3-pound fighters to chunky-thighed destroyers of everything breakable in the house. Their favorite word besides Dada was no, usually shrieked while doing exactly what they'd been asked not to do. "Daddy up," Olivia demanded, and Sebastian scooped both girls up, one on each hip, their birthday crowns, crooked faces covered in cake. Hannah watched her family because that's what they were now. Not by blood or obligation, but by choice. Sebastian had chosen them that night in the hospital, kept choosing them through sleepless nights and medical scares and first steps, and they'd chosen him right back. Security after chaos, love after abandonment, a family built not from perfection, but from showing up when it mattered most. 5 years later, Lincoln Elementary's auditorium buzzed with excitement for kindergarten graduation. Lily Moore and Olivia Harper, identical in tiny caps and gowns, but opposite in everything else, searched the crowd for their parents. Daddy, Mommy, Lily shouted protocol completely forgotten, waving wildly at the second row, where Sebastian sat with his camera ready. Hannah beside him with 7-month pregnancy glow, and their son Joseph Clark, now 4, bouncing excitedly. In the back corner, hidden in shadows where no one would notice him, stood Victor Stone. His empire had crumbled completely. The tech company bankrupt, his young wife gone within 6 months, taking what little remained. The investors he'd betrayed had blacklisted him from every opportunity. He'd returned to Houston 6 months ago, broken living, in a studio apartment, working contract coding jobs for survival. He'd seen the graduation announcement on social media through mutual connections. Some masochistic impulse had driven him here to witness what he'd thrown away. The twins were radiant, confident, secure, everything children should be when they know they're unconditionally loved. "My daddy's the best," Olivia announced to her teacher, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He reads us stories every night and makes pancakes shaped like butterflies." Sebastian Cole, one of the wealthiest men in Texas, was on his feet, cheering louder than anyone when they called Lily's name then. Olivia's recording every second, tears streaming down his face without shame. This man who commanded boardrooms and controlled billions was completely undone by 2 5-year-olds in graduation caps. Victor watched Hannah, too glowing, successful, her design firm now international. The wedding ring on her finger caught the light. The pregnancy made her radiant. The way Sebastian's hand never left hers. How Joseph called the twins his big sisters. How complete they looked. A family. A real family. As they called for final photos, Lily broke from her class line, running full speed toward Sebastian. "Daddy, did you see I graduated? I saw everything, princess." "I'm so proud of you, huh?" Olivia followed, more reserved but equally eager, wrapping herself around Sebastian's leg. "Ice cream now. Anything for my graduates?" He laughed, scooping them both up, despite Hannah's gentle protest about his back. Victor stood frozen, watching the life he could have had. These brilliant, beautiful girls who didn't even know he existed, who called another man daddy with such pure love, it physically hurt to witness. Some titles once abandoned can't be reclaimed. Some choices once made can't be undone. As the Cole family headed toward the exit, Sebastian carrying both twins, Hannah's hand on her belly, Joseph skipping ahead, they passed right by Victor. The twins looked through him like he was invisible because to them he was. He wasn't their father. He was just the stranger who'd left. The best families aren't always the ones you're born into. They're the ones that choose you, fight for you, and never let you stand alone. What would you do if you were Hannah or Sebastian? Share your thoughts below. Subscribe and hit the bell for more extraordinary stories of betrayal, redemption, and unexpected love.